What if I told you that even the longest rivers on Earth don't have a clearly defined beginning, or end? That some of the most powerful forces shaping our planet are constantly shifting, splitting and rewriting the very land beneath our feet. Today we follow the mighty rivers of the world, not just for their length but for the breathtaking stories they carry from source to sea. Rivers are the lifeblood of our planet, shaping continents, sustaining ecosystems and nurturing human civilization since the dawn of time. They carve mighty canyons, flow through ancient landscapes and support millions of lives along their banks. You've probably heard of some of Earth's most famous rivers like the Amazon or the Nile, but there's a good chance a few of the rivers in this video will surprise you. So stay with us as we journey through the geography, culture and significance of the 10 longest rivers on Earth. We're counting down from number 10, and each one tells its own remarkable story. Number 10. The Amur River. We begin in the vast rugged terrains of East Asia with the Amur River, stretching an impressive 4,444 kilometers. While it may not always make headlines like the Amazon or Yangtze, the Amur is one of the most geopolitically and ecologically important rivers in the world. It originates where the Shilka and Argun rivers meet, two streams winding down from the highlands along the border between Mongolia and Russia. For nearly 1,610 kilometers, the Amur forms a natural border between two global powers, Russia to the north and China to the south. But this river is far more than a political boundary. It's a corridor of history, diplomacy, and biodiversity. As we follow its course, we pass through a rich mosaic of ecosystems. The Amur River Basin is home to a range of landscapes, from boreal forests, thick with pine and larch, to lowland wetlands teeming with migratory birds and aquatic species. Several tributaries join the Amur along its journey, adding to its strength and size. From China, the Songhua River pours in, while on the Russian side, the Zaya and Bureya rivers contribute their flow. These feeder rivers help irrigate farmland, supply hydropower, and support regional economies across eastern Russia and northeastern China. Number 9. The Congo River. Next, we travel to the heart of Africa to explore the mighty Congo River, the second longest river on the continent after the Nile, stretching approximately 4,700 kilometers. But length alone doesn't define the Congo. This river is a true titan, not just in size but in influence. It begins humbly in the highlands of northeastern Zambia, where it is first known as the Chambeshi River. As it winds through the continent, the Chambeshi transforms into the Lualaba River and eventually becomes the Congo, a name that echoes with power and legacy. The Congo makes a grand arc across the continent, flowing northward through the Democratic Republic of Congo before curving westward and finally emptying into the Atlantic Ocean. Along this route, it slices through the world's second-largest rainforest, a region so dense and rich in life that it's often called the lungs of Africa. One of the Congo's most astounding features is its depth. In certain locations, it plunges over 220 meters, making it the deepest river in the world. Imagine the volume of water, the force, the sheer power hidden below the surface. This depth contributes to its unique ecology and also makes parts of it incredibly difficult to study. As we move downstream, the river confronts explorers with the legendary Congo Rapids, violent torrents and thundering waterfalls that once halted colonial expeditions and continue to challenge modern navigation. These rapids are not just physical obstacles, they symbolize the raw, untamed power of nature in this region. Yet past these natural barriers, the Congo River widens dramatically into a navigable stretch of water. For many in Central Africa, this river is a lifeline. It serves as a major transportation corridor, moving goods, people, and resources between otherwise isolated communities. Ferries and cargo boats glide along its surface, connecting villages, cities, and ports, sustaining life and trade across thousands of kilometers. Finally, we arrive at the mouth of the Congo River on Africa's western coast. After a long, sweeping journey across the heart of the continent, the river releases its immense volume into the Atlantic Ocean. But the story doesn't end there. The Congo creates a vast freshwater plume, one that extends hundreds of kilometers into the sea. This plume is so significant that it can be detected by satellite imagery. It influences ocean currents, marine ecosystems, and even local weather patterns. The meeting of freshwater and saltwater in this estuarine zone supports a rich marine biodiversity and sustains important fisheries for the surrounding coastal communities. Number 8. The Parana River, often mispronounced as Parana. We now journey across the Atlantic to South America to discover one of the continent's most powerful and far-reaching waterways, the majestic Parana River. At 4,880 kilometers in length, this is South America's second longest river, surpassed only by the Amazon. But don't let that ranking fool you. The Parana plays an equally vital role in shaping the landscape, economy, and life of the region. The river begins in southeastern Brazil, where two major tributaries, the Paranaíba and the Rio Grande, merge to form the Parana. Each of these tributaries is a substantial river in its own right, flowing from highland plateaus and gathering the runoff of tropical and subtropical rainfall. From the very start, the Parana is a powerful force. As we trace its journey southward, the Parana flows with strength and authority, forming a natural border between Brazil and Paraguay. This section of the river is home to one of the world's engineering marvels, the Itaipu Dam. Spanning nearly 8 kilometers and standing 196 meters tall, Itaipu is among the largest hydroelectric power plants on Earth. Its massive reservoir stores enough water to power not just Paraguay in its entirety, but also a significant portion of southern Brazil. It's not just a dam, it's a symbol of regional cooperation, engineering innovation, and sustainable energy. Further downstream, the Parana takes on new roles and meanings. It shifts to form the boundary between Paraguay and Argentina, cutting through diverse terrains where the landscape begins to transition from thick tropical forests to expansive grasslands, known as the Pampas. Along this stretch, the river broadens into a vast meandering system that supports dozens of islands and thriving wetland ecosystems. These wetlands are biodiversity hotspots, home to capybaras, caimans, herons, and countless migratory bird species. One of the most awe-inspiring features associated with the Parana River lies just off its main course, the Iguazu Falls. Though technically located on the Iguazu River, a tributary of the Parana, these falls are a breathtaking spectacle of natural power and beauty. The system consists of 275 individual cascades, some thundering down from heights of 80 meters. The sound, the mist, the sheer scale of Iguazu make it one of the world's most iconic waterfalls and a UNESCO World Heritage Site. As the river approaches its end, it merges with the Uruguay River to form the colossal Rio de la Plata estuary. This estuary spans an astonishing 220 kilometers at its widest point, making it one of the largest river mouths on the planet. From above, it appears almost like an inland sea, and it serves as a critical economic lifeline for the region, with major ports like Buenos Aires and Montevideo lining its shores. It's the grand finale to the Parana's sweeping journey through South America. Number 7. The Ob-Irtysh River System. Next we head north to the icy expanses of Siberia in Russia, where we find the immense Ob-Irtysh River System, an extraordinary waterway stretching 5,410 kilometers. This is not just a river, but an entire network of flowing lifelines that drains one of the largest watersheds on Earth, covering an estimated 3 million square kilometers. The Ob River begins in the Altai Mountains of southern Siberia, a region of staggering natural beauty and rugged terrain. Here, the Bia and Katun rivers merge to form the Ob's headwaters. These highland rivers are fed by glacial melt and snow runoff from peaks that soar over 4,500 meters. The waters begin their descent through mountain valleys, clear and fast-flowing, before entering the vast lowlands of western Siberia. The real scale of this river system becomes apparent when we factor in its principal tributary, the Irtysh River. The Irtysh originates even farther south, also in the Altai Mountains, flowing first through China and then Kazakhstan before it enters Russia. By the time it merges with the Obi near the city of Khanty-Mansiysk, the Irtysh has already traveled more than 4,000 kilometers, bringing with it massive volumes of water and sediment. Together, the Ob and Irtysh rivers form one of the most significant fluvial systems in northern Eurasia. As the river flows northward through the Siberian plain, it becomes a wide, slow-moving body of water that supports fishing, irrigation, and river transport, even though much of the region remains sparsely populated. Eventually the river reaches its end at the Kara Sea, part of the Arctic Ocean. Before emptying into the sea, the Ob fans out into one of the world's largest river deltas. This estuary spans roughly 80 kilometers at its widest point and is a critical part of the Arctic tundra ecosystem. For most of the year, the delta remains frozen under ice and snow, but in summer, it comes alive, bursting with grasses, insects, and a spectacular migration of birds who travel thousands of kilometers to nest in this remote haven. This final transformation, from icy river to vibrant wetland, illustrates the resilience and dynamism of Siberia's great waterways. Number 6. The Yellow River. Now, turning our attention to East Asia, we find ourselves in China, home to one of the most legendary rivers in world history, the Yellow River. Also known as the Huanghe, this mighty waterway stretches 5,464 kilometers across northern China and holds a deeply symbolic place in the heart of Chinese civilization. This is often referred to as China's Sorrow, a name earned not only for its beauty and cultural significance, but also for the devastation it has unleashed through history. The Yellow River has caused some of the deadliest floods in recorded history, displacing millions and reshaping entire regions. Yet, in the same breath, it is revered as the cradle of Chinese civilization. Along its banks, ancient societies first cultivated crops, developed writing systems, and built the foundations of what would become one of the world's oldest continuous cultures. The river's journey begins in the remote, windswept Yangtze Mountains of western China's Qinghai province. At these high altitudes, over 4,500 meters above sea level, the Yellow River starts as a cold, crystal-clear mountain stream. It winds gently through the verdant highlands and alpine meadows, seemingly fragile and unassuming. Yet, this humble beginning gives rise to one of the most dynamic and transformative rivers on Earth. As we follow the river eastward, it begins to gain strength and momentum. Soon, it takes a dramatic turn northward, looping around the harsh and arid expanse of the Ob-Irtysh Desert. This immense detour, known as the Great Bend of the Yellow River, marks one of the most iconic features of the river's course. It's not just a geographic shift, it's a visual testament to how the river has shaped the land around it, creating oases of life in otherwise desolate regions. Flowing onward, the river carves through the vast Loess Plateau, a region covered in fine, wind-blown silt known as loess. This yellowish dust, easily eroded and carried by water, is what gives the Yellow River its iconic golden hue. During the rainy seasons, enormous quantities of sediment are swept into the river, making it one of the muddiest rivers on Earth. The high sediment load raises the riverbed over time, increasing the risk of flooding and requiring constant human intervention through levees and dikes. Further along its course, the river narrows and descends into a series of dramatic gorges and canyons. One of the most breathtaking sections is the Jinshan, or Golden Mountain Canyon, where the Yellow River has sliced through layers of rock over millions of years. Sheer cliffs rise on either side, creating a passage that's as beautiful as it is treacherous. For centuries, traders, pilgrims, and armies have braved this terrain, testament to the river's historical role as both a lifeline and a barrier. Eventually, after traveling through provinces rich in agriculture and culture, the Yellow River reaches the North China Plain, one of the most densely populated areas on Earth. Here its flow slows, meandering through fertile farmland before finally emptying into the Bohai Sea, a gulf of the Yellow Sea connected to the Pacific Ocean. This sediment-rich delta plays a critical role in agriculture and fishing, though it is constantly shifting due to erosion and deposition. Number 5. The Yenisey-Angara River System. Now we return to the frozen north of Siberia to explore the mighty Yenisey-Angara River System, an astonishing fluvial network stretching 5,539 kilometers across Russia's vast wilderness. This system is the 5th longest in the world, and the largest river system that drains into the Arctic Ocean. The journey begins at a remarkable natural wonder, Lake Baikal. Known as the deepest and most voluminous freshwater lake in the world, Baikal holds about 20% of the planet's unfrozen surface freshwater. It is a place of exceptional biodiversity and beauty, often referred to as the Galapagos of Russia. Out of this ancient lake flows a single river, the Angara. Even in the heart of winter, when most rivers in Siberia are locked in ice, the Angara's headwaters remain unfrozen due to the constant outflow of Baikal's deep, thermally stable waters. As the Angara flows northwest, it powers through a series of hydroelectric dams, each transforming the landscape into vast artificial reservoirs. One of the most notable is the Bratsk Dam, completed in the 1960s. At the time, it was among the largest hydroelectric facilities in the world. The reservoir created behind it stretches over 500 kilometers, essentially turning parts of the river into massive, man-made lakes that now support shipping, industry, and settlements. Continuing downstream, the Angara eventually joins with the upper Yenisei, also known as the Great Yenisei, forming a colossal waterway that becomes broader and more powerful as it travels north. The Yenisei cuts through central Siberia, flowing through taiga forests, tundra, and remote regions where few roads or towns exist. This isolation has preserved vast stretches of wilderness and supports diverse wildlife, including bears, wolves, and reindeer. Finally, after its long, icy journey, the Yenisei River empties into the Kara Sea, part of the Arctic Ocean. The estuary it forms, known as the Yenisei Gulf, is one of the largest and most expansive on Earth, spanning up to 50 kilometers in width and stretching over 250 kilometers inland. This frigid delta is frozen for most of the year, but during the brief Arctic summer, it becomes a rich feeding ground for migratory birds and marine life, symbolizing the seasonal pulse of the far north. Number 4. The Mississippi-Missouri River System. Now we travel across the globe to North America, where we find the Grand Mississippi-Missouri River System. Stretching an immense 6,275 kilometers, this is the longest river system on the continent and one of the most iconic in the world. It weaves through the very heartland of the United States, shaping landscapes, cities, and cultures along its path. The system begins in the highlands of the Rocky Mountains in western Montana. Here, the Missouri River, the longest tributary of the Mississippi, forms from the confluence of three mountain streams, the Jefferson, Madison, and Gallatin Rivers. These waters originate in alpine forests and glacial valleys, gathering strength as they merge to form the mighty Missouri. As we follow the Missouri River eastward, the landscape begins to unfold like pages from a geological history book. One of the most striking scenes is found here: the gates of the mountain. Towering limestone cliffs rise hundreds of meters above the water, forming a majestic natural corridor that once awed the explorers of the Lewis and Clark expedition. The narrow channel, flanked by sheer stone walls, opens and closes like ancient gates as you move through, offering one of the most dramatic river vistas in North America. Continuing downstream, the Missouri flows into a series of vast artificial reservoirs, massive lakes created by dams constructed in the mid-20th century. This one here is Lake Sakakawea, formed by the Garrison Dam in North Dakota. Spanning 286 kilometers in length, it's one of the largest man-made lakes in North America. Now let's shift our attention to the Upper Mississippi River, which begins far to the northeast at Lake Itasca in northern Minnesota. At its origin, the Mississippi is hardly more than a gentle creek, so narrow that you could cross it in a single stride. It's almost impossible to imagine that this unassuming stream will grow into one of the most powerful rivers on Earth. As the river winds southward, its personality evolves. When it's joined by the Wisconsin River, the Mississippi broadens significantly, developing its characteristic braided channels. These channels weave between countless islands and sandbars, creating a shifting mosaic of land and water that supports thriving ecosystems of birds, fish, and amphibians. Eventually, we arrive at one of the most iconic junctions in American geography, the confluence of the Missouri and Mississippi rivers just north of St. Louis, Missouri. Here, the transformation is sudden and dramatic. The clear waters of the upper Mississippi are overtaken by the silt-heavy flow of the Missouri, turning the river into a muddy, coffee-colored torrent. This moment marks a true turning point as the river's size, strength, and sediment load increase sharply. Farther south, the river grows even more powerful as it is joined by major tributaries. One of the most significant is the Ohio River, which merges with the Mississippi at Cairo, Illinois. Despite being a tributary, the Ohio contributes more water at this point than the Mississippi itself, a testament to the complexity and scale of this great river system. Finally, we reach the grand finale, the Mississippi River Delta. Here, the river splits into a sprawling network of distributaries before spilling into the Gulf of Mexico. This ever-changing delta builds new land every year, depositing around 159 million tons of sediment annually. Number 3. The Yangtze River, China. Now, crossing back over to East Asia, we encounter one of the most legendary rivers on Earth, the Yangtze. Stretching an awe-inspiring 6,300 kilometers, the Yangtze is not only the longest river in Asia, but also the third longest in the world. It winds across the vast expanse of China, touching the lives of over 400 million people, and serving as a cultural, economic, and ecological lifeline for the nation. The river's story begins high in the frozen reaches of the Tibetan Plateau. Here, among glaciated peaks and alpine tundra, the Yangtze emerges from the melting ice of Geladandong Mountain, more than 5,000 meters above sea level. The river is born in silence, as snowmelt trickles into rocky valleys, gradually forming a stream that gathers speed and power with every kilometer. As it descends through steep mountain passes, the river enters a section known as the Three Gorges, a dramatic 200-kilometer stretch that stands as one of China's greatest natural wonders. Towering limestone cliffs rise up to 1,200 meters above the water, enclosing the river in a narrow, winding chasm. For thousands of years, this landscape has captivated Chinese artists, poets, and philosophers with its majestic beauty and mystic aura. But the Three Gorges is also home to one of modern engineering's most ambitious projects, the Three Gorges Dam. Completed in the early 21st century, this massive structure is the world's largest hydroelectric facility, capable of generating immense amounts of clean energy. The dam has created a reservoir that stretches 600 kilometers upstream, dramatically altering both the local environment and the flow of the river. Yet the Yangtze remains a dynamic, vital artery. It flows through cities like Wuhan and Nanjing, eventually reaching the coastal megacity of Shanghai before emptying into the East China Sea. Along its course, the river supports agriculture, transportation, fisheries, and industry, anchoring a civilization that has depended on its waters for millennia. Further downstream, the Yangtze River widens considerably as it flows into the fertile expanse of the Jianghan Plain. This region, nourished by centuries of seasonal floods and rich alluvial soil, is among China's most productive agricultural zones. Here, endless rice paddies glisten under the sun, interspersed with aquaculture ponds and rural villages. Finally, the Yangtze approaches its grand conclusion near Shanghai, where it fans out into one of the largest deltas in the world before spilling into the East China Sea. This delta is a hive of activity, both natural and man-made, a place where industry, wetlands, and urban sprawl collide. It's the last chapter in the journey of a river that has shaped the destiny of an entire civilization. At this point, it's worth pausing to reflect on a curious truth. Identifying where a river truly begins or ends, deciding which channels or tributaries count, or even measuring a river's total length, is anything but straightforward. Rivers are living systems. They shift, split, merge, and meander. They cut new channels through erosion, burst their banks in floods, and are often reshaped by human intervention. Some flow through lakes or reservoirs, while others divide into a labyrinth of distributaries as they near the sea. Even the highest resolution satellite maps can't always provide exact measurements. And so, when it comes to ranking the world's longest rivers, we're often relying on the best available estimates. Estimates that depend on methods, definitions, and interpretations. Which brings us to the top two. Number 2, the Amazon River, South America. Stretching approximately 6,400 kilometers, the Amazon River is the second longest river in the world, but when it comes to volume, it stands alone. This river carries more water than the next 7 largest rivers combined, discharging an average of 209,000 cubic meters per second into the Atlantic Ocean. Its journey begins high in the Peruvian Andes, where its most distant source, the Mantaro River, flows from Lake Junin. As the Amazon descends from the mountains and enters the vast lowlands of the Amazon basin, the landscape opens into one of the most awe-inspiring environments on Earth, the largest drainage basin and the largest rainforest in the world. As it moves eastward, the river expands dramatically, creating a complex web of meandering channels, floodplains, and oxbow lakes. Seasonal rains swell the river to such an extent that it can span over 190 kilometers wide during peak flood periods. One of the Amazon's most iconic features lies near Manaus, Brazil, at the meeting of waters. Here, the dark tea-colored waters of the Rio Negro flow side by side with the light, muddy current of the Solimões River. 2 mighty rivers running parallel for nearly 6 kilometers before finally blending. This phenomenon is caused by differences in temperature, speed, and sediment content, a visual spectacle that has fascinated observers for centuries. The Amazon basin teems with life. More than 2,500 species of fish call its waters home, including the infamous piranha and the pink river dolphin. Surrounding the river is a lush forest that shelters over 16,000 species of trees and countless animals, many of which remain undiscovered. At last, the river reaches its mouth on the northeastern coast of Brazil, where it empties into the Atlantic Ocean. Here, it creates a sprawling, island-filled estuary that's so massive it pushes fresh water hundreds of kilometers out to sea. And number 1, the Nile River, Africa. Topping the list is the legendary Nile River, a lifeline stretching 6,650 kilometers across northeastern Africa, making it the longest river in the world. Flowing northward through 11 countries, the Nile has shaped human history like no other. The river's most remote source is found in the highlands of Burundi, where the Kagera River begins its journey. From there, it flows into Lake Victoria, the largest lake in Africa, and emerges at Jinja, Uganda, as the Victoria Nile. Winding its way north, the river traverses South Sudan, where it fans out into the Sud wetlands, one of the planet's largest freshwater ecosystems. Covering up to 30,000 square kilometers during the rainy season, this region is a critical refuge for birds, fish, and large mammals, acting as a natural sponge that helps regulate water flow downstream. Further north at Khartoum, Sudan, the river undergoes its most dramatic transformation. Here, the White Nile merges with the Blue Nile, which rises in the Ethiopian highlands. The Blue Nile supplies roughly 80% of the water and nutrients carried to the Nile Valley. Fertile silt that for millennia has allowed agriculture to flourish in the surrounding desert. From Sudan into Egypt, the Nile carves a slender green ribbon through an otherwise arid landscape. Along its banks lie some of humanity's most iconic sites, pyramids, temples, and ancient cities, reminders of how this river nurtured one of the world's greatest civilizations. The contrast here is striking, a lush corridor of farms and villages bordered by vast, sun-baked desert. Finally, the river reaches its terminus at the Nile Delta. This fan-shaped region spreads out across 240 kilometers of Mediterranean coastline. It's one of the most densely populated and intensively cultivated areas in Africa, supporting nearly half of Egypt's population with its rich, alluvial soil and abundant fresh water. And there you have it, the 10 longest rivers on Earth, each one a force of nature, each one shaping the landscapes, lives, and legacies of entire continents. Which of these rivers surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this journey across the planet's great waterways, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell for more breathtaking explorations. Thanks for traveling with us. Wherever you are in the world, remember, home isn't just a place, it's a perspective. We'll see you in the next story, only here on Beyond Borders. Hit subscribe, share the journey, and stay curious.